Hi, everyone.
I
Welcome to
Hello.
the SURG Prevention Substance Use Response Group Prevention Subcommittee. Very glad to have everyone who's been able to join us today. We are at 3:01, so let's go ahead and get started with our call to order and roll call to establish quorum. Kim from the SEI team will help us with roll call. Kim?
All right. So if I can ask folks to please let me know if you are present when your name is called. Chair Johnson.
Present.
All right. Vice Chair Schoen.
I'm here. Good afternoon, everybody.
Member Nichols, who I believe just came in, so make sure you have a chance to unmute.
Yes, I may be logging in on my computer too because I'm just having connectivity issues.
Thank you. Member Nadler.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Senator Dinyate. All right, we have quorum.
Thanks so much. With that, let's move on to agenda item number 2, which is public comment. I'll once again turn it over to Kim with the SEI team to ensure that we have all the details for public comment.
Okay. All right, public comment. So public comment will be received via Zoom by raising your hand or unmuting yourself when asked for public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. No action may be taken upon a matter raised during a period devoted to comments by the general public until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken pursuant to NRS 241020. If you are dialing in from a telephone, please dial 253-205-0468. When prompted, enter the meeting ID, which is 825-0031-7472. Press *6 so we can prompt you to unmute. Members of the public are requested to refrain from commenting outside the designated public comment periods unless specifically called upon by the chair. Now open for public comment.
Yeah, thank you. We'll open the public comment period. Do we have anyone for public comment, Kim?
I see member Nadler has her hand raised. I'm not sure if that is related to public comment.
Actually, it may be related or maybe not, but I can't hear Jessica. Am I the only one? I'm only hearing every other word you're saying, Jessica, on your microphone.
Is my
So,
connectivity off for everyone?
I think it comes and goes a bit. I can hear you right now.
Okay, I'm happy to call in on my phone as soon as we move to agenda item number 3.
Sorry, that was it for me.
No worries. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? And maybe Kim, if you don't mind repeating, just in case my mic is cutting out for others as well.
If there's anyone else for public comment, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll move to the next agenda item. I'm not seeing any hands raised or anyone coming off of mute.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and close this period of public comment. We'll move to agenda item number 3. This will be for a review and approval of the minutes from our May 7th, 2025 Prevention Subcommittee meeting. Before I call for a motion, I'm going to give everyone a chance to review and call in on my cell phone for clear audio. So go ahead, subcommittee members, and take a moment to review the minutes. And when I come back, I'll call for a motion. Just one moment.
For folks that are just now joining us, we are on pause as we have some members that are dialing in to support connectivity. So thank you for your patience. We'll be moving on with the agenda shortly.
Hi, subcommittee members. Hopefully that gave you a chance and opportunity to review. Hopefully the audio is clearer now. Kim, can you confirm that?
Yes, and I see some thumbs up from
Wonderful.
other folks. Member Nadler, is it sounding a little bit better for you as well?
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Okay.
No problem. I'd love to call for a motion for approval of the minutes from our May 7th meeting. Do I have a motion?
This is Eric. I move to approve.
Thanks, Eric. Do I have a second? Can I second it, Kim?
And I
Debbie,
see,
you're
I
gonna
see
hop
Member
on.
Nadler coming off mute as well.
Well, I wasn't here. I read it. Can I second it? But I wasn't at the last meeting.
I believe that the DAG gave us guidance at the last meeting that you can, if you would like
Okay. Yeah, I read it. I accept it then. I move to accept.
to. Okay, wonderful. I have a motion by member Schoen and a second by Ms. Snadler. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, minutes from the May 7th meeting are approved. Let's move on to agenda item number 4. This will be a presentation from the Boys and Girls Club of Nevada Alliance on their project of the Fund for Resilient Nevada Smart Moves Tween and Teen Initiative. We're really grateful to have them here today. We have had some background recommendations on this committee around prevention historically and really looking to support what additional substance use prevention recommendations look like, and looking forward to hearing from the folks from the Boys and Girls Club. So Noelle and Tamika, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity for Tamika and I to share with you the progress on our initiative. Our names might look a little bit familiar to the committee because we have stalked your meetings on occasion over the last year, and particularly the prevention subcommittee. So definitely watching your work around prevention priorities very closely, and just very much appreciated how they tied into the work that we do each and every day. So it feels very comfortable, like we're coming, of course, to friends, but also colleagues in this space. And we're happy to answer any questions. We're going to go ahead and just share some highlights of our initiative so far. And then you're welcome to either interrupt us since it's a small group, or certainly we can have some questions at the end as well. So with that, you'll hear from both Tamika and I. I'll kick things off and then pass the mic to her. So again, we are 15 months into our Fund for Resilient Nevada grant. We applied last spring, early last spring, for what we call the Smart Moves Tween and Teen Initiative. So we're going to give you high level where the initiative is, our statewide reach, the design of the initiative, our impact to date, and then field questions, comments along the way or at the end. Next slide, please. So for those of you that aren't familiar, this is the footprint of the Nevada Alliance of Boys and Girls Clubs. So we are 8 organizations strong, and you'll see our geographic reach there. But our oldest club here in Southern Nevada is from 1959. So we have a deep history, 66-year history in the state of Nevada, and certainly have grown with the times. And we'll share you a little bit about that on the next slide. So this is our current reach. What started out as a clubhouse in the basement of a casino has blossomed to 97 club sites. We make up, of course, traditional clubhouses, which are community-based centers, but we also have school-based sites and early learning sites that are licensed childcare for younger youth, 0 to age 5. Our footprint has grown pretty dramatically over the last 5 years, so much so that we have a stronger presence in rural Nevada than in urban. So we also have, of course, good representation in suburban, and then we are on the Nellis Air Force Base as well as the Fallon Air Force Base. We have 37,000 youth engaged each year with Boys and Girls Clubs, 1,100 staff. Still 2/3 of our population, they qualify for free and reduced lunch. So we're still primarily serving those families that need that safe space after school for youth. You'll also note here that the bulk of our population that we're serving is age 12 and under. And then we do have a teen population that's about 20%. What's interesting about that is, and I don't think it'll come as a surprise to you, is that, you know, of course, as teens get older, have more choices in their high school activities, they get cars. Sometimes their attendance will drop off at Boys and Girls Clubs. So we do a good job of capturing as many as we can with some pretty kind of modern and edgy programs, as well as we hire teens. So. But what we wanted to do with our Smart Moves initiative was kind of take a look at that sweet spot of the middle, the tweens. So we were watching a lot of the data coming out about tweens in particular, and they were susceptible more to substance abuse pressures, bullying, cyber influences as well. And so we wanted to see what could we do to move the needle for those tweens. So we launched the Smart Moves initiative in partnership with the Fund for Resilient Nevada. The next slide, please. So Smart Moves is an evidence-informed prevention program. So it was developed in partnership with Allstate and Kohl's Cares. It's a team delivery approach, which means we have peer leaders deliver the curricula. And we also partner with parents and community representatives, as well as, of course, have that staff with an eagle's eye in the room and helping guide discussion points and certain lesson milestones. So the youth learn resilient skills through discussion and role playing. They also spend quite a bit of time in these PACE modules, just analyzing media and peer influences. We take the time to really promote abstinence from substance use. We know that longer that we can have them, delay that age of experimentation, the better our odds. And so we focus a lot of our PACE module work, our community representative speakers around those efforts in particular. And we also reward responsible behavior. We love having the carrot out there of food and fun as kids are making their way through the modules and really responding to the curricula. And we measure everything through pre and post tests. And then we also have a lead agency that is SAFTA certified. So that just ensures that the program is being delivered with integrity. Next slide, please. So we have 3 main goals for the initiative. Goal 1 was to reach about 2,900 Boys and Girls Club members ages 10 to 15. So that's those tweens and young teens. And then goal 2, we were going to train 75 of our staff mentors, specifically in opioid use and misuse. We're going to connect them with, of course, with community response and health providers. And then also we had a goal to Narcan and naloxone ready several of our community centers. And we have very interesting stats around that Tamika will share that I think you'll find very interesting. And then goal 3 is we wanted to, of course, engage families. So we had a goal to engage over 300 families through 14 community events statewide. and bring them together, of course, over food and fun, but also provide the resources and have, really that safe space for them to ask questions about opioid use, storage, disposal, all the tough questions that maybe you just don't get to through your day. So we, of course, fed them pizza parties and cookie decorating parties, and then also sprinkled in a whole lot of information about how to keep their families safe, and certainly the resources that clubs provide in the community. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Tamika, and she'll share with you our progress today. Tamika?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. If for any reason my connection gets a little choppy, Noelle has my back and is happy to chime in to just keep the integrity of the meeting. Next slide, please. So as mentioned on those last slides, we had those 3 goals. I'm just going to touch on them. So one of them was to make sure we served 30 in the 34 communities, 10 to 15-year-olds. This particular slide shows you where we are as of a while back. These numbers have actually changed since we created this slide. So we're much closer to that goal of 2,900 and anticipate making that goal. We've broken them down by clubhouse with their original goal, which you can see here. I will note, you'll see that the Boys and Girls Club of North Lake Tahoe only participated in the family engagement component. So we did not keep numbers for that particular clubhouse. But you'll note that, for example, Southern Nevada, our goal is 1,100, we're at 914. Colorado River goal was 41, we're at 32. So we're very, very close to meeting and hopefully in my dream world exceeding that particular goal. Next slide. The other goal that was mentioned was staff trained, and Noelle touched on exactly what that meant. This particular goal, as they say in baseball, was hit out of the park. Most of our clubhouses trained well over what our goal was. They looked at it as a benefit, and the more people we have trained and knowledgeable in that space, the better it is overall for the kids, families, and the clubhouses, and in essence, the community, because this is something you use also, even in everyday life, wherever you are. We ended up with Truckee Meadows, which more than triple, quadruple, they ended up training the majority of their staff at 150 out of the 32 that we had goal for them. Even our smaller clubs, Colorado River, Elko, they went well over as what their goal was as well. And out of that 75, we have 271 trained staff. That includes recognizing opioid overdoses and things of that nature and how to treat them, all of that. Next slide. The Narcan Ready Clubs, this was a goal we had. We wanted to make sure that we had Narcan on site, on hand, in the event of any overdose situations that it needed to be, administered. That's another one that we also knocked out of the park. I'm going to use baseball references just because I know out here we have games, our aviators, and I've been to a few. Truckee Meadows' goal was 3. They have 13 sites and clubs that are all Narcan ready. As you could see, that goal was 10. We have 27. And potentially there might be 1 or 2 more because some of the clubs during their next month decided to add 1 or 2 more. And the next slide. The other part was definitely being in touch with the community, as this is part of what we want to do. So we wanted to serve families through 14 events. And of course, again, our goals, as you can see from this particular chart, broken down by clubs, everybody way exceeded all of the events that they were, set out to do. For example, Truckee Meadows, the goal was 90. They did 120 and counting. Some of them still have events that they are doing to date. They have events, anything from, having barbecue nights to movie nights, to just everything you could think of that brought families out. And as Noelle said, gave them all of that information to really kind of saturate it in there while they're eating a slice of pizza. So our goal was 320. We did 724 and counting. Next slide. So the tween and teen impact, which is what's really, really important with this particular grant, the objective was to increase knowledge of opioid misuse, impact, community resources, and intervention resources in roughly 2,900 youth. We measured this through the Smart Moves by conducting pre and post-test surveys. I actually got to see a post-test survey earlier this week, and the students actually received the same test or very similar test so that we can assess where they started, what their knowledge was, how their approach was, and where they ended after the Smart Moves program and curricula. And 73% of them improved and were all knowledgeable, took in all the information that they got from Smart Moves program. The other objective was to increase youth recognition and resilience to peer, media pressure, substance misuse, and that one was a 91%. Some of these numbers you will notice, well, why wasn't it 100%? The numbers and data is a little off due to attendance. Sometimes we have some of these were administered in the morning, and then some of those children were absent or out for a particular day when a particular segment of the Smart Moves curriculum was being taught. Others were other clubs administer them at different times during the day, or they had to switch off. So sometimes the numbers are a little skewed, but definitely we are reaching more than half of all of these students, definitely in the 90 percentile. And some of the other participants are in different cohorts, so they will also still be tested on that same curricula that they missed and come out with those good outcomes. And next slide. Staff and club impact. The objective was to empower 75 staff through an increase in knowledge of effective opioid intervention strategies, including administering the Narcan. This slide we saw earlier, like I stated, we knocked it out of the park. We did 271, which is 361% of the goal. So therefore, we more than reached that goal. We went well over that goal because we just wanted to saturate it, because the more we have, the better it is. The other objective was to supply 10 or more clubhouses with the Narcan, making those clubs Narcan ready and the staff ready to administer at any time and recognize any of those situations. That was 27, which was 270% of the goal. The goal was to only have like 10. Next slide. The family and community impact, which is really, really important as well, because here, outside of the students, we're bringing in those families to also learn a little bit about the recognition, the impact, and how this, affects them, the families, and the community. The objective was to empower 320 families through 14 outreach events. We ended up doing 724 families, which is 226% of the goal. I will say we're probably over that because they still had events that they were doing and had planned. The other objective was to ensure community resources and referrals are accessible, current, engage communities, guest speakers, reach out to folks. And that result was involvement. We got, obviously, Southern Nevada Health District comes out and helps a lot. We network and collaborate with ambulance services, fire departments, sheriff's offices, police departments, all the hospitals throughout the state, first responders, and counting. So next slide. We just put in, because this has been so impactful, so amazing. The kids like it, the staff likes it. We put in a pending request, and one of those was to expand that age range. We know the focus is on that teen tween kind of group and demographic, but we really want to expand it because if we could catch them younger, it's better. It's already ingrained in them. It's part of their everyday life of how they respond when they're faced with some of these situations, right? So we want to decrease it to include 8 and 9-year-olds, so bring that age down a little bit, which is 26% of the registered members of the Boys and Girls Club. That gives us access to an additional 2,000, roughly 900 youth that we will also teach Smart Moves to, and all of these same events, and to those families. We also put in for transportation support. In order to saturate even more, we need to be able sometimes to meet those families and children where they are. Everyone can't get to a club. Everyone can't get there all the time in order to participate in Smart Moves program. So if we can send our staff to where they are, meet them at those schools, meet them where they are, we take out that whole barrier to the attendance factor, to them being able to participate altogether. We want to do more community outreach. One of the big things that we've done, which is what I had the opportunity and pleasure to go to, is a Kipo charter school. And I found out a little bit more information of how this even started. We were meeting with the school about something completely different when the principal stated that they were they had concerns about drug problems in their school. At that point, we had a staff member in our Southern Nevada clubhouse who said, that's interesting. We have this program that we administer. Long story short, we got together. That's access of an additional 685 students at just that one site in school. Our staff goes out to them. They meet with them in the morning, Tuesdays and Fridays. They administer Smart Moves to those students right there in classrooms. And some of them weren't even members of the club. So we went out into the community. I'd love to replicate that a lot more and meet with other organizations and nonprofit that have access to children that we could put Smart Moves in front of and help. The other one is community partnership specialists. We want to create awareness by networking with other family service and educator providers, which is slightly what I just mentioned. We really, really, really want to saturate it out there. And the sooner we could do it, the better we could do it. And the further reach we can use to get to it, the better it is for everyone in our society and state. Next slide. And Noelle, if there are any questions or comments for myself or Noelle, here's our contact information. And we really, really love this program. Like I said, the students love it. And I actually got to go out. I'm actually going back out Friday because it's the end of the school year at Akipo, and they're having a little celebration program for their Smart Moves participants. So I'll be there to watch all of those wonderful kiddos.
Yeah, thank you, Noelle and Tamika, for a wonderful presentation. Ms. Nadler, I see your hand up, but any subcommittee members who have questions, please share them. Ms. Nadler, you have the floor.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. I love what y'all do. I think it's absolutely terrific. I just had a couple of questions. On the tween and teen impact, what kind of testing do you use to see what has impacted them, what they've learned, the post test and the pre-test? Is it a written test? Is it a circled? I'm just curious what kind of testing to see what they've gained, what kind of knowledge, what they've learned.
Do you want me to take that, Tamika, or do you want to?
We can tag team it. I can just start with what the students are tested on a survey. So it's written down, and it's kind of both. So it's interactive and it's written, and they're asked specific questions about, what do you do if you're presented with this? What do you do if you see this or that? How do you deal with certain things? And they respond to those. And that same test is administered in the beginning and the end. And I believe, in Noelle, I will tag you on this just to make sure I'm correct. It is part of the Smart Moves where they're getting some of these questions from.
Mm-hmm. So the survey, correct. So Ms. Nadler, the survey is developed as part of the curricula. And so it is questions that tie, of course, to each of the PACE modules. And at the beginning, there's an assessment of where they're at in their knowledge base and their comfort as far as addressing these issues with peers or with adults. And then after they go through their PACE modules, they take the exact same test to see, do they recognize more media pressures? Do they recognize more peer trigger statements? Do they recognize the actual physical appearance of an opioid? Do they understand now better how to store it or dispose of it? And so it's those types of very specific questions that are tied to that curricula that was developed with Allstate and Kohl's Care.
Yeah, I think that's great. My last question is, just so I'm not confused on this, and I'm so sorry. The Smart Move program, is it specifically tied into the Boys and Girls Club, or this is where you're doing it? I know you're going to this other school, which I think is fabulous. I mean, I wish we could go to every middle age school here, because my kid's old junior high school teacher called me the other day. She's at Sawyer, and told me they have such a bad problem. She's finding kids in the bathroom with pills and everything. So I'm hoping this is something you can do in all the middle schools somehow. I think it's so important, but I love what you're doing.
Well, we appreciate that vote of confidence. And yes, that's part of the vision as well. But Smart Moves is a Boys and Girls Club of America developed curricula. So we do have proprietary ownership over it, which is fantastic because it also means we can be very nimble. So like, for example, when vaping was really kind of hitting social media and in schools and things like that, we were able to pretty quickly add a module around vaping. Same is true with opioids and fentanyl, as you know, that was really percolating to the top of tween and teen conversations. We were able to, of course, work with partner universities as well as Allstate and develop a module specifically around that. So it is a curriculum that's very nimble that way. And I think that's why the community partners that have come into contact with it like it so much, is that it's not a boilerplate, it's not dated, it's very fluid, it's very relevant. There's TikTok elements, who would have known? But there are. And so, yeah, we have to, and I think what's interesting about that, Ms. Nadler, is that, you know, with the difference between delivering this kind of curricula in a school setting versus a clubhouse setting or with clubhouse staff, is that the youth have a choice. And so it's interesting when they come into a clubhouse, they can choose to play basketball, they can choose to get a snack, they can choose to do, you know, the art room activity. But those that are choosing to come into the room and connect as peers and go over this type of curricula and learn more is really encouraging, right? They're curious, they want the information, they want to know how to address it with their peers, with their families. And so we're very hopeful. We really are. And so we do hope that we'll get our FY26 funding and beyond, so that we can take it to those younger populations, and we can take it into schools more often as well, so that they can see it as well.
Well, I guess you could work in the reverse too, right? Can you go to the schools, especially the middle schools, and drop off brochures, you know, for kids to join the boys club, girls club, and then be a part of the, you know, get them from their school to you? Are you putting out any flyers in all the schools around major cities or all the cities?
Yes, so there is an entire middle school outreach initiative that's being developed. So see, you're just, yeah, you're singing off of our song sheet. So yes, we are working on that as well. So we'd love to have more tweens and teens in the clubhouses as well.
Thank you. This is great. Sorry, you're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Ms. Nadler, and responses. Any other questions from subcommittee members? Well, Mr. Schoen, you're not on my main screen. I can't see your face today. Okay, I had a couple of quick questions, if that's all right, from the Boys and Girls Club team. Thank you for a really robust presentation. I really appreciate it. I'm wondering, I know you mentioned at the outset this was evidence informed. I'm wondering if your partners at Kohl's Cares and Allstate and Boys and Girls, the national group, are doing any type of like longevity or outcome assessments with the curriculum, how you're assessing the long-term behavior change. I'm a public health person, so that's where my head's at.
Oh, yeah, no, you absolutely are reading our minds. So yes, we have been one of the many voices with Boys and Girls of America about getting this curricula notched up to the next tier as evidence-based rather than evidence-informed. And so, yes, they are working with, the university, it's escaping me, but I believe it's in Georgia. They are working with the university on the criteria for evaluating that to get it elevated and categorized as evidence-based, just because that does open up. Once you're on the higher tier, it opens up a lot more possibilities.
Yeah, wonderful. Glad to hear that you're doing that, and hopefully tracking the outcomes over time as you're seeing the impact. As a former after-school prevention program instructor myself, I can speak to like the magic in the classroom and the opportunity for that, you know, to translate into long-term behavior change and healthier Nevadans across the board. So I appreciate that. How is this the only type of programming around kind of substance use and prevention that Boys and Girls Club offers? Are there other kind of sister or brother programs within the agency that are similar? How does
There
that
are,
work?
well, yes. So it is a kind of a, what do you call it? The word's escaping me, but it's a continuum of curricula.
Oh, okay.
And so Smart Moves is one of them. Smart Moves, the nice thing when they crafted it, they made it age appropriate. So it's nice that it can stay, you know, with the youth depending on their age and be delivered in an age appropriate format. The interesting thing that they did early on too, it was about 10 or 12 years ago, is they had offshoots. And they took a program called Smart Girls, and then they took a separate program called Passport to Manhood. And these two offshoots then made it gender appropriate. And what they found is with the Smart Girls, they developed the curricula around that, about everything from dating violence to body image to media pressures, eating disorders. And then with Passport to Manhood, same thing. They did male appropriate, you know, dating violence, no means no, aggression, bullying, things like that. So it's nice in that this is a continuum of curricula developed with, you know, particular partners, so that we can make sure that it is being delivered in a safe space and in an age and gender appropriate way.
Yeah, great. Glad to hear that. It's kind of part of a suite of services that Boys and Girls Club is offering. That's really great. What does I know there are a lot of, we've heard from folks in the past from like the statewide coalition partnership in Nevada. Do you collaborate with them? If so, what does that look like?
So are you referring to the Boys and Girls Club statewide?
Yeah, and so in Nevada we have our statewide coalition partnership, joined together Northern Nevada, PAX Coalition, and other groups. I'm curious if your clubs in those regions, or I know they deliver curriculum at schools and other places too. So I'm just kind of thinking about the overall scope and picture of access to prevention services. So wondering if you have any collaboration with them. Yeah.
Yeah, so each of our clubs have a set of resources that they use, of course, locally and regionally. The nice thing is that once we became, you know, a partner of Fund for Resilient Nevada as well, a whole wealth of resources came in and contacts came in. And so we found that, you know, we were being invited a lot more to either speak or attend trainings, things like that. One of the things we love to do, because we do have 97 facilities, is we love to host meetings. So if SURG ever wanted to host a meeting, we'd love to host you at a clubhouse. And we have catering services because we feed kids. So it's those types of things that I think has been the most helpful in connecting us in a meaningful way to coalitions, so that they see that it's more than just a curriculum being delivered, but it's really a holistic approach to how we meet kids where they are, we connect with their families, we connect with experts. We don't pretend to be experts in everything, but we sure the heck know where to find them. And so that's really what we're motivated to do, is connect with those folks. And coalitions are a great place to do that.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from subcommittee members for our presenters today? Seeing no one immediately jump off of mute, just curious, Noelle and Tamika, kind of with our upcoming recommendations, is that something your team has had a chance to review? Do you see work like this aligning, or any thoughts on how SURG can help continue to promote prevention across the state?
One of the things I loved about your verbiage, because it's kind of, it's in our DNA to talk about primary prevention. And so, you know, so often I think people think of prevention almost when it gets to the intervention or even the treatment phase. And it's like, no, if you can capture them so early. So I think that's one of the things that was really encouraging about your work and your prevention priorities, is that you're talking about universal, you're talking about primary prevention, and that is the broadest net that we can get out there, to be able to kind of change the chatter. And that's what this initiative and what Boys and Girls Club is all about, is really changing that chatter, so that youth are talking about things, not in a kitschy TikTok way, but really in, this is how it's going to impact my body, this is going to how it's impact my family, and this is going to how it's going to impact my community. And so I think, you know, I've been a part of a couple of SURG meetings where it seems as though some of the conversation might, you know, go to law enforcement or go to treatment or adults and things like that. And I think there's just this nice balance that you have on the committee where people are like, but let's capture them younger, you know, let's capture them early. And so with that, we have a hand on your back. We're your partner. We're happy to be that voice for you anytime. So please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us, and we'd be happy to be there.
Wonderful, thank you for that and your feedback today, and a wonderful presentation. We really value and appreciate your time, energy, and effort and coming to share with us about your program.
Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. I'm glad to learn more about that particular program. We're going to move to agenda item number 5. So here we're going to review the progress on the prior SURG prevention subcommittee recommendations and submissions. Kim, do you have any additional slides for me on this?
I don't. The next slides are the transitioning to the document that was shared and posted to the website.
Wonderful. So as a brief update, I know Kim shared out from our last meeting a copy of the Excel spreadsheet that our friend from SEI, Laura Hale, spent a lot of time working and putting together. That sort of summarizes the current impact of where we're at with our SURG recommendations. So I know that folks probably landed in your inbox a week or so ago, but I think it'd be helpful to see if anyone on the subcommittee had a chance to review this and had any additional thoughts on or questions for Laura or additional context on any of the information that she provided.
And I will note that Laura is also on the call if there are any updates, that if you would like to request any updates, given that this was produced while legislative session was still occurring.
Definitely.
Chair Johnson, this is Eric. I did have a chance to review it, and I found the information very helpful, just so overall. I did want to highlight, and I don't know remember if it was captured in the document, that we did have a pretty extraordinary success in this most recent legislative session just closed, in that prevention specialists, certified prevention specialists, were that bill was passed, so it's now a formally recognized certification, which I am hopeful, although I've been around the block enough to know this isn't necessarily the trajectory, but I'll just state it publicly, that I would hope that it would have a similar cachet as we are trying to elevate both community health workers and peers, that they are recognized, basically valued components of the service, that the workforce that we need to develop the kinds of supports that our previous presenters just provided, but that they would be recognized and actually sought after to be included as part of strategic planning, implementation, all the sorts of areas that we need folks who are up to date on what makes prevention really effective. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. I really appreciate that. That kind of aligns with a few of the different recommendations that we've had in both this iteration of the report and previous iterations of the report. So I do think that's been a key success. And now, did you say that it had signature or it's awaiting signature or veto?
My understanding is it's going to be signed if it hasn't been signed already. I haven't heard anything that would indicate that it won't be signed if it hasn't been signed yet.
That's great. And that would allow for the impact to prevention specialists. So what I'm hearing you say is that thinking through some of these other recommendations around peers and CHWs, maybe taking a second look at them once we have more details about the finalization of the legislative session?
Yeah, no, I think for sure. Once people are still trying to sort through what happened these last few days, so I think that includes all of us. I also, now that I'm looking at the screen, I remember thinking as I was going through this that we seem to have more direct success with the harm reduction recommendations than we did the prevention side of things. I don't think that's necessarily because we did anything necessarily different, but it was interesting to me to see, I think we actually made more progress on the harm reduction side of things versus the prevention side. If that makes sense.
Any specific feedback or thoughts as to why?
For me? Or are you asking that question?
Yeah.
Okay. I think Debbie has an idea.
Okay. Yeah, Debbie, what are your thoughts? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was wondering about that because I've been looking at all the bills that have been going through. I know there's at least 121 sitting on governor's desk right now, and I don't really see anything on prevention. And it just seems like we've done this every year, and the prevention part has always been knocked to the back of the table. And it's really, and that's what I loved about what they were talking about just now, our presenters. They were focused on primary prevention. I don't know, is there something we can present stronger that would pass for primary prevention? Because we've got to have it. Our overdose rates are up. And why is nobody talking about this in our state? Everybody else is down. Why are our overdoses up? Our rates are up. And I talked to police officers the other day because I buy them breakfast every morning when I go to Starbucks. And they all tell me, every single ones that I talk to, and they're different ones, that they can't tell me how many times that they have gone in, Narcan, they found 3 people just last week in an apartment unalived. I mean, I don't understand what's not being told to us and what's being told to us, because I also had another friend. I'm sorry, I wasn't here a few weeks ago and I'm blurting out stuff, but I got to get this off my chest. I was talking to some other friends in Louisiana, and one mom lost their child to marijuana, which was laced with fentanyl. We had somebody come on here, and it was 2 times ago, and give us an update on a lot of things. I can't remember who it was, a doctor. Was she from California? Somebody came in and was giving us all stats, and I ran them by. my friends in other states and everywhere else, and some of those stats were not true. I'm sorry to say, they're not. So I don't know what we can do, but
Hey, Debbie,
sorry.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. Can I take, Chair
Go
Johnson,
ahead,
can I take
Eric.
a stab at answering? So you asked, I think, a very important question, like what is different about, and I think Chair Johnson also framed it this way, what's the difference perhaps between the goals that we set for prevention and the goals that we set for harm reduction? And what I'm noticing, I think the goals for prevention were more challenging to the status quo. In other words, we took some pretty big. I remember having this conversation on the committee that I want to set a goal that's audacious, where I think it should be, like improving, doubling the amount of funding from 12 million to 24 million, basically from the base budget. But many of these goals have things like set aside 15% for tobacco control, $2 per capita. We were very specific on how we wanted these indexed, and I think it made people uncomfortable that maybe we were that direct. I don't know. I'm hypothesizing. Perhaps it was a bigger jump than some people were willing to make. But that's one of the notable differences between the set of goals on the prevention side and the set of goals on the harm reduction side that I am seeing.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair Schoen. I also think one of the recommendations that the SEI team presented at the last meeting was to identify a bill sponsor. So I think many of the ones on prevention are bill draft request related. And so perhaps it behooves us to talk through with our legislative appointee on prevention subcommittee and maybe the larger SURG about these particular recommendations. If they are bill draft requests, what are ways that they could be more actionable potentially, and what would it take for like a legislator to take up one of these, and maybe we can incorporate that in our 2025 version of the recommendation to make sure that they're aligned with what our community members, like for example, this tobacco one, we heard from the statewide tobacco coalition group, and ensuring that they're kind of palatable in terms of what would be of interest to a legislator. That was my takeaway from what the SEI team shared with us at the last meeting, was to make sure that they have a specific sponsor or person who can take them forward. So yeah, Debbie, did you have additional thoughts you wanted to share there?
Yeah, I did. And that's, and I'm looking at this stuff too. And I think it's perhaps too broad. I mean, I think we need specifics, like how are we going to use that money? Well, great, we're going to double the expenditure, right? But there's no breakdown. Like, 1/8 is going to go to this in the schools, a program that's been tried, proven, is working up here. We didn't really put specifics. And I think that's what we need to focus on, is specific programming or specific mental health services, just more specific. It's too broad. It's reading too broad. Now that I'm looking at all this, I probably wouldn't have passed it either. I mean, I know what it's about, but now that I'm looking at it, and if I take myself out of the equation, I probably would have said, well, what is all that? Right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, and I guess my perspective, the role of our committee is to kind of make these broader brush strokes based on what the recommendations are from different groups across the state, and identify in this example, I think with the bill draft request, who would take this on. And then to your point, Debbie, if they wanted something more specific or different, or how we could connect with the Nevada Tobacco Control and Smoke-Free Coalition experts to ensure that they had a specific recommendation. So I think what I'd love to see from this committee is if there are recommendations that we'd like to continue to workshop, if you can resubmit them through the SEI portal. That way we can make sure that they're on our radar, and in this particular forum, we can work through these types of questions and notes, and Kim can help us track what we're thinking about in terms of edits and changes. And if there are additional experts that we want to bring on, like now is kind of the time to identify that as we're thinking through these particular efforts. So Vice Chair Schoen, to your earlier point, I'm wondering, once we learn more about the prevention specialist bill and the final outcome, bringing on the group who sponsored it, or the legislator who led that piece, who could speak a little bit more to the impact, and maybe recommend how we update some of these recommendations related to either peers or CHWs or other groups. I don't know what your thoughts are on an approach like that.
I have a lot of thoughts, but they're not all connected to that. You said something earlier. I just want to, and I will just for a minute sort of speak very transparently if anybody else is ever thinking about serving on a committee like this. It's interesting sort of what you think it's going to be, the experience, and then what it actually is. And I for myself, maybe naively thought, oh, really they just want us to make recommendations, and somebody else will figure out how to communicate those or sell those to the decision makers, and communicate that, hey, this body of august people who've got all sorts of experience in prevention and intervention, here's their smartest thinking. I never thought we would also have to develop as a committee the expertise for how do we get the most traction for these legislatively. And that's honestly been my biggest learning curve, because even though I've spent some time, it's still a level of sophistication that I'm learning about. And so that last bit of monologue that you did, talking about maybe we need to be more sophisticated basically in how we craft these, language these, frame these so that they're more attractive, or we're doing a better job of communicating why these should be picked up. Yeah, I think there could be a lot of good utility in that.
Thank you for that feedback. Yeah, I'm wondering if once Senator Dunyate is able to rejoin our committee, maybe there's some opportunity he can lend his expertise in time in the legislative session to help this group identify or reframe some of these recommendations in a way that could improve their actionability, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Well, I know, Terry, let me just add one thing really quick. Because I know for me, fundamentally, I feel like that very first recommendation we have, where we're recommending a big swing in increasing the prevention budget, because we woefully underfund prevention. I think all of us would probably agree with that. That seems to me a pretty straightforward recommendation. I understand there are a lot of monetary pressures this session for why something like that maybe wouldn't have been followed up on, but that's a
right.
pretty clear, a directional spotlight as we can provide on what we think would really help move prevention in this state.
Yeah, and it occurred to me at our October SURG meeting that we perhaps got this on the desk of the right person slightly too late. That was what I was informed of our budgets were due 2 weeks ago at that particular meeting. So I think some of this is timing and learning as this committee continues to grow. Dr. Kearns, I know you're on the response subcommittee and here as well. Open to your thoughts as a SURG member.
Sure. I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to speak at your meeting. I just wanted to highlight that the Northern Regional Policy Board is the one who sponsored the Certified Prevention Specialist. And they just so happen to be having a meeting tomorrow, and we'll be talking about this. I can send that information to Kim and she can push it out. It's tomorrow at 2:00. And then from what I heard earlier today, that did make it through both the Assembly and the Senate, and had moved on to be signed by the governor. So I think that's just where we're at with that. And the other thing I wanted to highlight is, as you all remember, the Attorney General sponsored AB 19 as a BDR this past legislative session, and that was to increase the membership of the SURG. But as it went through, we got some comment both on the Assembly side and the Senate side. And one was, for example, rather than just having a member of the general public, to have a member of the general public that comes from a multilingual household would be helpful. And then another thing that got changed was and it was amended. Now, my understanding is AB 19 has gone through both Assembly and Senate and has been pushed over to the governor's office. I haven't heard that it's signed yet. But the amendment that was made was to revise the timeline for submission of the annual report. And this gets just exactly to what you guys are talking about right now. The purpose is to make the recommendations more actionable and aligned with timelines for departmental budgets and legislative deadlines. So if this gets signed, what will happen is the 2025 annual report will be approved in January, but it will really just describe the process for developing the recommendations, but won't have the actual recommendations in it. And then in August of 2026, we will have our next annual report due with those recommendations. And then every August thereafter, again, with the idea of hitting the departments when it's time for them to finalize budgets and to also try to get sponsors for BDRs, because the response subcommittee also had something for BDR, but it was too late as well.
Thank you, Dr. Kearns, for sharing that insight, and that we're not the only subcommittee identifying these challenges in our work. Appreciate it. Ms. Nadler, I saw your hand up earlier. I'm wondering if there was anything additional you wanted to add to this agenda item?
I forgot. Well, actually, the marijuana thing, are we going to do anything with it?
Yeah, we'll talk about that briefly on agenda item number 6.
Okay.
And I think Kim has an update on some of our speakers. So yes, we have received a couple of proposed 2025 prevention subcommittees. So we'll talk about that at the next agenda item. So I just want to make sure if there's anything additional for agenda item number 5 that would be helpful to discuss from the committee.
Well, just really quick, Chair Johnston, I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Kearns. It was really, it's really affirming to hear that there are people smarter than us, or me at least, I'll speak personally, who understood that a shift in those dates would help us to get those recommendations out in a timely fashion to have the kind of impact that we want. So kudos to whoever was smart enough to figure that all out. That makes me really.
You're a committee member who happens to be on the Senate. Has a lot to do with that. Senator Doniate.
Good.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Kearns. And I echo that. That's the type of expertise that we need at the table to ensure that there's some actionability. So what I would love to see related to agenda item number 5 for subcommittee members who are on is, if there is a recommendation that you'd like to see continue in 2025, if you can put it into Kim's survey,
That will help us make sure that we're tracking. Otherwise, we're going to move forward. So if there's something in particular, even if you put draft in parentheses at the beginning of it, or and then move over the detailed items from before, that'll help us make sure that we're trying to identify speakers and time for workshopping and working through the recommendations. We only have a couple more meetings before our, we'll have a meeting in July, and then we only have a couple more meetings before this kind of first round is due. I'm sure we'll be getting guidance from the Attorney General's office with the date change for AB 19. So wanted to just make sure that's on everyone's radar. If you can do me that favor, if there's something specific that you'd like to see continue, even if it's all of them, that's okay. We can put them all in and then we'll be able to track them. But if there are wins that we need to move on from, then definitely open to that, if that helps. From any questions from the subcommittee members on that. Dr. Kearns, go ahead.
Not a question, but just a comment to let you know, one of the things we talked about, we had our response subcommittee meeting yesterday. And one of the things we discussed is if the recommendations now will not be due until August of 2026, does that mean we need to look at a different cadence to the subcommittee meetings? So we thought sending out a survey to the subcommittee to ask them, do we need to continue to meet monthly, or could we go to every other month? So something just also to consider.
Thank you, Dr. Kearns. I believe SEI will be sending forward that survey. So if folks could plan to respond to that survey, that'd be delightful. All right. With that, we'll move to agenda item number 6. Kim, I'll give you a second to pull the slides back up. Thanks. So agenda item number 6 is to discuss our proposed 2025 Prevention Subcommittee recommendations. I know we got our overview of AB 19. Thank you, Dr. Kearns, for hopping on about that and a forthcoming survey and how that might impact the recommendation schedule. But still, I think my request is for us to consider what we want to keep, what we're either sunsetting, moving on from, what we want to modify based on progress or changes. Kim, is there anything else on this recommendations process slide you want to be sure the committee highlights?
Yeah, I would just note that folks who have seen this slide before, we used to give you a time frame that said, please submit your recommendations by this date. That has been altered given the potential for AB 19 to impact that timeline. So that's why this is a little bit more general. The other thing I would note is, particularly if you are seeking to elevate an existing strategy for continued conversation, we do ask that you fill out as much of the survey as feels relevant, particularly anything that relates to changing circumstances. But along the way, if you feel like the information provided prior is the same information for a particular response or text box within the SurveyMonkey, feel free to note that. Some of the survey questions are required, and so if you don't put in something, the submission won't go through, but feel free to say, you know, has not changed, or indicate where you have additional information that you'd want to provide. And then the information provided via the survey for prior strategies that made their way into the annual reports is also available in those documents. So you could be referring to those while you are filling out the survey to help guide where you might have new information or where you might want to just pull in the information that was provided prior.
Thank you. Any questions for the SEI team about the recommendation submission for the survey? Not seeing anyone immediately hop off mute or hand, so we can go to the next slide. So I think that we've had 2 recommendations come through so far. One, Debbie, you mentioned the cannabis recommendation. I know the SEI team has been working with our recommended presenter to identify a date and time that Dr. Lev is available to present. Kim, do you have any updates on that?
No, only that I've reached out to her a few times and I hope to hear soon.
Wonderful. And I know that if we continue with our tobacco recommendation, I know that the Nevada Tobacco Control and Smoke-Free Coalition SMEs are also open to coming and talking about some of their efforts around cannabis, where it aligns in the state of Nevada as well. So hopefully that can also help provide context to this recommendation.
I would note, Jessica, on that I believe they are have confirmed that they can attend our next meeting, so which is our August meeting, assuming that the cadence of meetings doesn't change. They would be attending at that meeting.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? Go ahead, Debbie.
Hey, sorry about that. Kim, are you not able to get in touch with the doctor? Because I've got another expert subject person who's just as good. Or, I mean, do you want me to send that in to the Survey Monkey when I fill it out?
That if you have another speaker that you think you'd like to recommend to speak towards this recommendation, yes, and I would say for that, don't feel the need to do another survey because you've submitted it once. You can go ahead and email that to me if that's easier.
Okay, yeah.
Just email me that speaker and I'll know that that is someone for me to reach out to for more additional information around this recommendation.
Perfect. And now the Survey Monkey is for new, or do we say what we feel now, or we wait and fill it out on the Survey Monkey? Because I have something very important, but just wait for the Survey Monkey for that.
Is this, Debbie, just to clarify, is this specific about wording changes here, or is this a new recommendation?
It's
or
a new a new recommendation that kind of sort of, well, not really marijuana, but kratom. I want to talk about kratom. I want to talk about making it illegal in our state because it is in 6 other states.
So
a recommendation, go ahead, Kim.
I was just going to say, I would ask for you to fill out the Survey Monkey, Debbie, just because it has places to collect a lot of supplementary information that we want to share with the subcommittee, so that they have all that context that you have around why you would like to elevate that recommendation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And then for the speaker, just to be clear, the speaker that's related to the recommendation currently on the screen, you can just email that to me. You don't need to use the Survey Monkey for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks, Debbie. I appreciate you thinking about the recommendations for the subcommittee. The other received recommendation, I think, is on the next slide. That is related to naloxone. So we received a presentation on this at our last meeting, and I do have some, based on that, some amendments that I'd like to make here. I know, Kim, you were waiting for just a finalized presentation from our speakers to post it. So once that's available, I'll submit those updates just based specifically on some of the guidance from Josh, who shared that now that naloxone is available over the counter, they've made kind of some updates and changes to the recommendations of the projects and work that they've done in California that have been where standing orders are no longer needed, for example. So I just want to make sure that what we're considering is kind of aligned with the most updated practices as this group thinks about this recommendation for submission. So I have one more edit maybe before we put this to a vote, if that's all right with the subcommittee. Any additional feedback at this time that would be helpful to consider based on that presentation or others related to this recommendation? All right, seeing no one immediately jump off of mute. We can, before we move to agenda item number 7, I know that we'll have some additional recommendations surface between now and the next meeting. So I imagine this item will be a little bit more robust, but this is sort of what we have so far that's been received by the team. I'll move to agenda item number 7. So we're going to discuss a report out for the July 9th, 2025 SURG meeting. I've been honored to represent this committee as the chair and report outs at these larger meetings. I will be traveling to Atlanta, and I am not sure what my internet connection is going to look like. Vice Chair Schoen, are you available to hop in for the July 9th meeting for an update? I'm seeing a thumbs up.
Yep, I got you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that in advance. Hotel Wi-Fi can be a little dicey, and I didn't want to chance access.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. We got it covered.
Wonderful. So Vice Chair Schoen will be providing a report out at our July 9th meeting about sort of where we're at today and the presentations we've received and the discussion and present recommendations. I appreciate you representing our subcommittee. Great. Any additional discussion on this item? All right. With that, we can move to agenda item number 8, which is our second period of public comment. Kim, I'm going to turn it over to you to make sure we're in compliance.
All right, so public comment will be received via Zoom. You can do that by raising your hand or unmuting yourself when asked for public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. No action may be taken upon a matter raised during a period devoted to comments by the general public until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken pursuant to NRS 241020. If you are dialing in from a telephone, you will dial 258-205-0468. When prompted, you will enter the meeting ID 825-0031-7472, and then please press *6 so we can prompt you to unmute. Members of the public are requested to refrain from commenting outside the designated public comment periods unless specifically called upon by the chair. With that, I believe our period of public comment is open.
Wonderful. Do we have anybody for public comment today? Hearing and seeing no one, I'll just wait another moment, given that I'm on the phone and computer and all of the technology.
I do not see anyone with a raised hand, Chair Johnson.
All right, wonderful. With that, we'll close the period for the second period for public comment, and we'll move to agenda item number 9. This is adjournment. Thank you, everyone who was able to hop in today. Thank you specifically to our presenters from the Boys and Girls Club and to the subcommittee for the work. Grateful to work with you all, and see you in July for the larger meeting and August for our prevention meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.